Welcome to the Moon Baby Magic podcast, a space to honor women's rites of passage stories. From menarche to menopause, the initiations of womanhood all live within our wombs. Through our first bleed to our last, we come to know ourselves more deeply. This is a platform to reclaim the sacredness of all of it. I'm your host, Natalie Elliott, birth keeper and women's coach, specializing in womb wellness and hormonal healing. Ready for slow and sacred storytelling? Let's dive in. Hey women, welcome back to Moon Baby Magic. I'm your host, Natalie. Today I am on cycle day 9, as I always love to check in with you all and just encouraging you to do so with me, what day you're on, remembering that day 1 is the first day of your bleed. So I'm in my follicular phase, and when I'm in this phase, it feels very exciting. There's a lot of magic available, and there's a lot of forward moving energy, which is quite different from the season we're in, which is autumn. It's the polar opposite. So when we're in our inner spring, our follicular phase, it's our maiden energy. And then in the world, in the Northern Hemisphere, at least right now on November 17th, 2025, we are in autumn. And that is really what today's podcast episode is all about, is how thin the veil gets at this time. And maybe you've heard that terminology before and it seems a bit woo-woo and you're not too sure about it, and that's totally fine. You're in the company of a fellow, someone who can be skeptical. I'm quite skeptical and magical. And I want to really explain to you and bring a grounded awareness to what this season holds. And that's why today I wanted to come to you with the story of Inanna. But first, I want to point out, if you're watching in video, I didn't bother to clean up the Kitara supplies that are sitting on the couch behind me. And that is a box I just opened. The team at Kitara have been close friends of mine for years now. And I had Kit on my podcast. You should definitely listen to her episode if you haven't. Last year, or early this year, I believe, actually it was. And she is such a joy. She has created this beautiful Yoni steam supplies company, and I just received a pot, a gorgeous pot, a gorgeous steam set that can actually be taken apart and put together to be portable, which is a game changer for me, especially thinking about getting ready for the Nourished and Thriving retreat that's happening in March in Nicaragua. That I will actually be able to take a steam seat to use with all the women on the plane easily with me. So I got that. I got a cushion for the seat, a gorgeous organic linen blanket to wrap around myself, 3 different blends, a burner. And right now, if you're listening to this before Black Friday sales have ended, Kitara is offering up to 50% off of some of their products. So I highly recommend checking them out. If you're listening after Black Friday, never to worry. I have a 15% off code for you, which is MoonBabyLove, and you can use that at any time. And as you'll hear with our theme today, steaming is really supportive for grounding in the energies of this time. And if you like the practice, investing in some supplies to make it nourishing and luxurious for yourself is what queens do. So today we're here to talk about Inanna, Queen of Heaven and Earth, and I'll be referencing a lot from this book, which is called Inanna, Queen of Heaven and Earth, Her Stories and Hymns from Sumer by Diane Wolkstein and Samuel Noah Kramer. So that's a book of a lot of Inanna's myths that I've read quite a few times and I've shared with the women in my life, because why am I talking about Inanna on a women's health podcast, right? Well, Inanna's story is what I think is really the modern and ancient heroine's journey. So we often hear about the hero's journey, which is, right, like Hercules. You think about Hercules, you go and he's conquers something, and hearing how much I know about Hercules, but we know what the hero's journey is, right? Challenge, overcome challenge, victory. Men love challenge. I was actually just talking about this with a friend of mine the other day, that men thrive on challenge. Women, not so much. We actually thrive on something a little softer, but also something a little deeper. And I think Inanna's myth is a really beautiful way of understanding what we as women experience and move through that brings us to our maturity and gives us this kind of full spectrum to ourselves. And the way that it relates to the cycle is Inanna's journey is essentially a journey of going to the underworld, being stripped bare, and then returning as different. And the first time I heard this myth, it was from Amaya Cohen, who is a wonderful woman. You can find her on Instagram, and she does all these beautiful priestess trainings and pilgrimages. And the first time I heard this story, it felt like someone had gotten into my psyche and spoken in symbolic, mythological language exactly what my life experiences had been. And the more that I've shared Inanna's myth with other women or chatted with women who know Inanna's myth, they feel the same way. Because Inanna's descent is what many of us women go through, one, in our menstrual phase of our cycles, when we go and we're like shedding and we have to release all this stuff. We can't be who we were in our ovulatory energy. And then we come back and we've learned something. We've taken something from the underworld and brought it to our waking consciousness, right? And also, it's like birth. When you go into birth, it is this like underworld experience where you're like, I might die. I might actually die. And you have to strip down your maiden, and then you step into your mother. And you're changed and you're new. And that's what this podcast is all about, is rites of passage. And so without further ado, I'm going to read directly from this book, The Descent of Inanna. So if you haven't already gotten yourself a nice tea, some cacao perhaps, a blanket, maybe you're sitting and listening to this while Yoni steaming, let's do it. All right. From the great above to the great below. From the great above, she opened her ear to the great below. From the great above, the goddess opened her ear to the great below. From the great above, Inanna opened her ear to the great below. My lady abandoned heaven and earth to descend to the underworld. Inanna abandoned heaven and earth to descend to the underworld. She abandoned her office of holy priestess to descend to the underworld. In Uruk, she abandoned her temple to descend to the underworld. In Batibira, she abandoned her temple to descend to the underworld. In Zabalam, she abandoned her temple to descend to the underworld. In Adab, she abandoned her temple to descend to the underworld. In Nippur, she abandoned her temple to descend to the underworld. In Kish, she abandoned her temple to descend to the underworld. In Akkad, she abandoned her temple to descend to the underworld. She gathered together the 7 Mi. A quick note here, the Mi are like their treasures. So the Mi are like her jewels, her tiara, her crown, her robes, her scepter. She gathered together the 7 Mi. She took them into her hands. With the Mi in her possession, she prepared herself. She placed the Shugara, the crown of the steppe, on her head. She arranged the dark locks of hair across her forehead. She tied the small lapis beads around her neck, let the double strand of beads fall to her breast, and wrapped the royal robe around her body. She daubed her eyes with ointment called Let Him Come, bound the breastplate called Man Come, Man Come, around her chest, slipped the gold ring over her wrist, and took the lapis measuring rod and line in her hand. Inanna set out for the underworld. Ninshubur, her faithful servant, went with her. Inanna spoke to her, saying, Ninshubur, my constant support, my Sukal who gives me wise advice, my warrior who fights by my side. I am descending to the Kur, to the underworld. If I do not return, set up a lament for me by the ruins. Beat the drum for me in the assembly places. Circle the houses of the gods. Tear at your eyes, at your mouth, at your thighs. Dress yourself in a single garment like a beggar. Go to Nippur, to the temple of Enlil. When you enter his holy shrine, cry out, O Father Enlil, do not let your daughter be put to death in the underworld. Do not let your bright silver be covered with the dust of the underworld. Do not let your precious lapis be broken into stone for the stone worker. Do not let your fragrant boxwood be cut into wood for the woodworker. Do not let the holy priestess of heaven be put to death in the underworld. If Enlil will not help you, go to Ur, to the temple of Nanna. Weep before Father Nanna. If Nanna will not help you, go to Eridu, to the temple of Enki. Weep before Father Enki. Father Enki, the god of wisdom, knows the food of life. He knows the water of life. He knows the secrets. Surely he will not let me die. Inanna continued on her way to the underworld. Then she stopped and said, Go now, Ninshibur. Do not forget the words I have commanded you. When Inanna arrived at the gates of the underworld, she knocked loudly. She cried out in a fierce voice, Open the door, gatekeeper. Open the door, Neti. I alone would enter. Neti, the chief gatekeeper of the Kur, asked, Who are you? She answered, I am Inanna, queen of heaven, on my way to the east. Neti said, If you are truly Inanna, queen of heaven, on your way to the east, why has your heart led you on the road from which no traveler returns? Inanna answered, Because of my older sister Erishkigal. Her husband, Gugalana, the bull of heaven, has died. I have come to witness the funeral rites. Let the beer of his funeral rites be poured into the cup. Let it be done. Neti spoke. Stay here, Inanna. I will speak to my queen. I will give her your message. Neti, the chief gatekeeper of the Kur, entered the palace of Erishkigal, the queen of the underworld, and said, My queen, a maid, as tall as heaven, as wide as the earth, as strong as the foundations of the city wall, waits outside the palace gates. She has gathered together the 7 mi. She has taken them into her hands. With the mi in her possession, she has prepared herself. On her head she wears the shugura, the crown of the steppe. Across her forehead, her dark locks of hair are carefully arranged. Around her neck, she wears the small lapis beads. At her breast, she wears double strands of beads. Her body is wrapped with the royal robe. Her eyes are daubed with the ointment called Let Him Come, Let Him Come. Around her chest, she wears the breastplate called Come, Man, Come. On her wrist, she wears the gold ring. In her hand, she carries the lapis measuring rod and line. When Erishkigal heard this, she slapped her thigh and bit her lip. She took the matter into her heart and dwelt on it. Then she spoke. Come, Neti, my chief gatekeeper of the Kur, heed my words. Bolt the 7 gates of the underworld, then one by one open each gate a crack. Let Inanna enter. As she enters, remove her royal garments. Let the holy priestess of heaven enter bowed low. Neti heeded the words of his queen. He bolted the 7 gates of the underworld. Then he opened the outer gate. He said to the maid, Come, Inanna, enter. When she entered the first gate, from her head the shugura, the crown of the steppe, was removed. Inanna asked, What is this? She was told, Quiet, Inanna. The ways of the underworld are perfect. They may not be questioned. When she entered the second gate, from her neck the small lapis beads were removed. Inanna asked, What is this? She was told, Quiet, Inanna. The ways of the underworld are perfect. They may not be questioned. When she entered the third gate, from her breastplate the double strand of beads was removed. Inanna asked, What is this? She was told, Quiet, Inanna. The ways of the underworld are perfect. They may not be questioned. When she entered the fourth gate, from her chest the breastplate called Come, Man, Come was removed. Inanna asked, What is this? She was told, Quiet, Inanna. The ways of the underworld are perfect, and they may not be questioned. When she entered the fifth gate, from her wrist the gold ring was removed. Inanna asked, What is this? She was told, Quiet, Inanna. The ways of the underworld are perfect. They may not be questioned. When she entered the sixth gate, from her hand the lapis measuring rod and line was removed. Inanna asked, What is this? She was told, Quiet, Inanna. The ways of the underworld are perfect. They may not be questioned. When she entered the seventh gate, from her body the royal robe was removed. Inanna asked, What is this? She was told, Quiet, Inanna. The ways of the underworld are perfect, and they may not be questioned. Naked and bowed low, Inanna entered the throne room. Erishkigal rose from her throne. Inanna started towards the throne. Then Anuna, the judges of the underworld, surrounded her. They passed judgment against her. Then Ereshkigal fastened on Inanna the eye of death. She spoke against her the word of wrath. She uttered against her the cry of guilt. She struck her. Inanna was turned into a corpse, a piece of rotting meat, and was hung from a hook on the wall. When, after 3 days and nights, Inanna had not returned, Ninshibur set up a lament for her by the ruins. She beat the drum for her in the assembly places. She circled the houses of the gods. She tore at her eyes, she tore at her mouth, she tore at her thighs. She dressed herself in a single garment like a beggar. Alone she set out for Nippur in the temple of Enlil. When she entered the holy shrine, she cried out, "O Father Enlil, do not let your daughter be put to death in the underworld. Do not let your bright silver be covered with the dust of the underworld. Do not let your precious lapis be broken into stone for the stone worker. Do not let your fragrant boxwood be cut into wood for the woodworker. Do not let the holy priestess of heaven be put to death in the underworld." Father Enlil answered angrily, "My daughter craved the great above. Inanna craved the great below. She who receives the me of the underworld does not return. She who goes to the dark city stays there." Father Enlil would not help. Ninshibur went to Ur in the temple of Nanna. When she entered the holy shrine, she cried out, "O Father Nanna, do not let your daughter be put to death in the underworld. Do not let your bright silver be covered with the dust of the underworld. Do not let your precious lapis be broken into stone for the stone worker. Do not let your fragrant boxwood be cut into wood for the woodworker. Do not let the holy priestess of heaven be put to death in the underworld." Father Nanna answered angrily, "My daughter craved the great above. Inanna craved the great below. She who receives the me of the underworld does not return. She who goes to the dark city stays there." Father Nanna would not help. Ninshibur went to Eridu and to the temple of Enki. When she entered the holy shrine, she cried out, "O Father Enki, do not let your daughter be put to death in the underworld. Do not let your bright silver be covered with the dust of the underworld. Do not let your precious lapis be broken into stone for the stone worker. Do not let your fragrant boxwood be cut into wood for the woodworker. Do not let the holy priestess of heaven be put to death in the underworld." Father Enki said, "What has happened? What has my daughter done? Inanna, queen of all the lands, holy priestess of heaven, what has happened? I am troubled. I am grieved." From under his fingernail, Father Enki brought forth dirt. He fashioned the dirt into a kugara, a creature neither male nor female. From under the fingernail of his other hand, he brought forth dirt. He fashioned the dirt into a galatur, a creature neither male nor female. He gave the food of life to the kugara. He gave the water of life to the galatur. Enki spoke to the kugara and galatur, saying, "Go to the underworld. Enter the doors like flies. Ereshkigal, the queen of the underworld, is moaning, with the cries of a woman about to give birth. No linen is spread over her body. Her breasts are uncovered. Her hair swirls about her head like leeks. When she cries, 'Oh, oh, my inside,' cry also, 'Oh, oh, your inside.' When she cries, 'Oh, oh, my outside,' cry also, 'Oh, oh, your outside.' The queen will be pleased. She will offer you a gift. Ask her only for the corpse that hangs from the hook on the wall. One of you will sprinkle the food of life on it. The other will sprinkle the water of life. Inanna will arise." The Kurgara and Galatur heeded Enki's words. They set out for the underworld. Like flies, they slipped through the cracks of the gates. They entered the throne room of the queen of the underworld. No linen was spread over her body. Her breasts were uncovered. Her hair swirled around her head like leeks. Ereshkigal was moaning, "Oh, oh, my inside." They moaned, "Oh, oh, your inside." She moaned, "Oh, oh, my outside." They moaned, "Oh, oh, your outside." She groaned, "Oh, oh, my belly." They groaned, "Oh, oh, your belly." She groaned, "Oh, oh, my back." They groaned, "Oh, oh, your back." She sighed, "Ah, ah, my heart." They sighed, "Ah, ah, your heart." She sighed, "Ah, ah, my liver." They sighed, "Ah, ah, your liver." Ereshkigal stopped. She looked at them. She asked, "Who are you?" Moaning, groaning, sighing with me. "If you are the gods, I will bless you. If you are mortals, I will give you a gift. I will give you the water gift, the river in its fullness. The Kurgada and Galatur answered, "We do not wish it." Ereshkigal said, "I will give you the grain gift, the fields and harvest." The Kurgada and Galatur said, "We do not wish it." Ereshkigal said, "Speak then, what do you wish?" They answered, "We wish only the corpse that hangs from the hook on the wall." Ereshkigal said, "The corpse belongs to Inanna." They said, "Whether it belongs to our queen, whether it belongs to our king, that is what we wish." The corpse was given to them. The Kurgada sprinkled the food of life on the corpse. The Galatur sprinkled the water of life on the corpse. Inanna arose. Inanna was about to ascend from the underworld, when the Anuna, the judges of the underworld, seized her. They said, "No one ascends from the underworld unmarked. If Inanna wishes to return from the underworld, she must provide someone in her place." As Inanna ascended from the underworld, the Gala, the demons of the underworld, clung to her side. The Gala were demons who know no food, who know no drink, who eat no offerings, who drink no libations, who accept no gifts. They enjoy no love-making. They have no sweet children to kiss. They tear the wife from the husband's arms. They tear the child from the father's knees. They steal the bride from her marriage home. The demons clung to Inanna. The small Gala who accompanied Inanna were like reeds the size of low picket fences. The large Gala who accompanied Inanna were like reeds the size of high picket fences. The ones who walked in front of Inanna was not a minister, yet he carried a scepter. The one who walked behind her was not a warrior, yet he carried a mace. Ninshabur, dressed in a soiled sackcloth, waited outside the palace gates. When she saw Inanna, surrounded by the Gala, she threw herself in the dust at Inanna's feet. The Gala said, "Walk on, Inanna. We will take an Ninshabur in your place." Inanna cried, "No, Ninshabur is my constant support. She is my Sukal who gives me wise advice. She is my warrior who fights by my side. She did not forget my words. She set up a lament for me by the ruins. She beat the drum for me at the assembly places. She circled the houses of the gods. She tore at her eyes, at her mouth, at her thighs. She dressed herself in a single garment like a beggar. Alone she set out for Nippur in the temple of Enlil. She went to Ur in the temple of Nana. She went to Eridu in the temple of Enki. Because of her life, my life was saved. I will never give Ninshabur to you." The Gala said, "Walk on, Inanna. We will accompany you to Uma." In Uma, at the holy shrine, Shara, the son of Inanna, was dressed in a soiled sackcloth. When he saw Inanna surrounded by the Gala, he threw himself the dust at her feet. The Gala said, "Walk on to your city, Inanna. We will take Shara in your place." Inanna cried, "No, not Shara. He is my son who sings hymns to me. He is my son who cuts my nails and smooths my hair. I will never give Shara to you." The Gala said, "Walk on, Inanna. We will accompany you to Baptibira." In Baptibira, at the holy shrine, Lulal, the son of Inanna, was dressed in a soiled sackcloth. When he saw Inanna surrounded by the Gala, he threw himself in the dust at her feet. The Gala said, "Walk on to your city, Inanna. We will take Lulal in your place." Inanna cried, "Not Lulal. He is my son. He is a leader among men. He is my right arm. He is my left arm. I will never give Lulal to you." The Gala said, "Walk on to your city, Inanna. We will go with you to the big apple tree in Uruk." In Uruk, by the big apple tree, Dumuzi, the husband of Inanna, was dressed in his shining knee garments. He sat on his magnificent throne, and he did not move. The Gala seized him by his thighs. They poured milk out of his 7 churns. They broke the reed pipe which the shepherd was playing. Inanna fastened on Dumuzi the eye of death. She spoke against him the word of wrath. She uttered against him the cry of guilt. "Take him, take Dumuzi away." The Gala, who know no food, who know no drink, who eat no offerings, who drink no libations, who accept no gifts, seized Dumuzi. They made him stand up. They made him sit down. They beat the husband of Inanna. They gashed him with axes. Dumuzi let out a wail. He raised his hands to heaven to Utu, the god of justice, and beseeched him. "O Utu, you are my brother-in-law. I am the husband of your sister. I brought cream to your mother's house. I brought milk to Ningal's house. I am the one who carried food to the holy shrine. I am the one who brought wedding gifts to Uruk. I am the one who danced on the holy knees, the knees of Inanna. Utu, you who are not just a god, a merciful god, Change my hands into the hands of a snake. Change my feet into the feet of a snake. Let me escape from my demons. Do not let them hold me. The merciful Utu accepted Dumuzi's tears. He changed the hands of Dumuzi into snake hands. He changed the feet of Dumuzi into snake feet. Dumuzi escaped from his demons. They could not hold him. I will take a pause here to say that eventually the Gala did seize Dumuzi. And now we hear about Inanna's return. A lament was raised in the city. My lady weeps bitterly for her young husband. Inanna weeps bitterly for her young husband. Woe for her husband. Woe for her young love. Woe for her house. Woe for her city. Dumuzi was taken captive in Uruk. He will no longer bathe in Eridu. He will no longer soap himself at the holy shrine. He will no longer treat the mother of Inanna as his mother. He will no longer perform his sweet task among the maidens of the city. He will no longer compete with the young men of the city. He will no longer raise his sword higher than the Kukara priests. Great is the grief of those who mourn for Dumuzi. Inanna wept for Dumuzi. Gone is my husband, my sweet husband. Gone is my love, my sweet love. My beloved has been taken from the city, O you flies of the steppe. My beloved bridegroom has been taken from me, before I could wrap him with a proper shroud. The wild bull lives no more. The shepherd, the wild bull lives no more. Dumuzi, the wild bull, lives no more. I ask the hills and valleys, where is my husband? I say to them, I can no longer bring him food. I can no longer serve him drink. The jackal lies down in his bed. The raven dwells in his sheepfold. You ask me about his reed pipe. The wind must play it for him. You ask me about his sweet songs. The wind must sing them for him. Surtur, the mother of Dumuzi, wept for her son. My heart plays the reed pipe of mourning. Once my boy wandered so freely on the steppe, now he is captive. Once Dumuzi wandered so freely on the steppe, now he is bound. The ewe gives up her lamb. The goat gives up her kid. My heart plays the reed pipe of mourning. O treacherous steppe, in the place where he once said, my mother will ask for me. Now he cannot move his hands. He cannot move his feet. My heart plays the reed pipe of mourning. I would go to him. I would see my child. The mother walked to the desolate place. Surtur walked to where Dumuzi lay. She looked at the slain wild bull. She looked into his face. She said, my child, the face is yours. The spirit has fled. There is mourning in the house. There is grief in the inner chambers. The sister wandered about the city, weeping for her brother. Inanna wandered about the city, weeping for Dumuzi. O my brother, who is your sister? I am your sister. O Dumuzi, who is your mother? I am your mother. The day that dawns for you will also dawn for me. The day you will see, I will also see. I would find my brother, I would comfort him, I would share his fate. When she saw the sister's grief, when Inanna saw the grief of Inanna, she spoke to her gently. Your brother's house is no more. Dumuzi has been carried away by the Gala. I would take you to him, but I do not know the place. Then a fly appeared. The holy fly circled the air above Inanna's head and spoke. If I tell you where Dumuzi is, what will you give me? Inanna said, if you tell me, I will let you frequent the beer houses and taverns. I will let you dwell among the talk of the wise ones. I will let you dwell among the songs of minstrels. The fly spoke. Lift your eyes to the edges of the steppe. Lift your eyes to Arali. There you will find Inanna's brother. There you will find the shepherd Dumuzi. Inanna and Inanna went to the edges of the steppe. They found Dumuzi weeping. Inanna took Dumuzi by the hand and said, you will go to the underworld half the year. Your sister, since she has asked, will go the other half. On the day you are called, that day you will be taken. On the day Inanna is called, that day you will be free. Inanna placed Dumuzi in the hands of the Eternal. Holy Ereshkigal, great is your renown. Holy Ereshkigal, I sing your praises. I'm just inviting you to take a minute with that. My intention with the Moon Baby Magic podcast has always been that it feels like a safe sanctuary for women's stories. You know, the kind of stories that we used to sit around the fire and share with each other. The kind of stories that came from honoring rites of passage and having the circle of sisters feel strong. If you've ever craved that level of community but haven't quite found it in person, I want you to know that the next Nourished and Thriving retreat is coming up, and this is exactly the place for women like you. On the twin volcano island of Ometepe, rising from the sacred waters of Lake Coquibolca of Nicaragua, we gather for 8 days of women-centered activities, like adventuring to tropical waterfalls, self-love, powerful photo sessions, silent mornings with bone broth cacao, daily women's well-being, health, womb, and expansion workshops, and mouth-watering, deeply nourishing, seed oil-free international dishes made with grass-fed local meat, fruits, vegetables, and a raw dairy. 7 nights of singing, story sharing, and heart-to-heart conversations around a crackling fire on the beach, while connecting with like-hearted women as the stars twinkle above and we sip even more bone broth hot chocolate. Laura and I hosted the first Nourished and Thriving retreat this past spring, in the Sacred Valley of Peru, and it was amazing. The women healed, they learned new things about themselves, they learned about their bodies, they came home to their cycles, they made friends with each other and have continued to connect and reap the benefits of giving this gift to themselves. The Nourished and Thriving retreat is happening next time, March 30th to April 6th, 2026, this time in beautiful Nicaragua, and we want you to join us. The pre-sale pricing is live, and yes, of course, there are payment plans available and a connection call to chat with us for free to make sure that this is the right fit for you. There are women already claiming their spots, and we hope that you're next. So you can find all the details in the show notes. This specific translation of the myth didn't speak a lot to how Inanna was upon her return. But many of the myths share how Inanna came back and she was no longer a maiden. So these earlier stories that are in this book of Inanna, it's all about Inanna and Dumuzi's love, about Inanna as a maiden and wanting all these riches and wanting to be a queen. And then you see in the end, after Inanna's come back from the underworld, what is the reason why she denounces Dumuzi is because he is sitting in all of his riches. He hasn't taken off his riches the way that he hasn't taken off his cloak and his crown and his jewels and laid down his riches the way Ninshubur and Inanna's sons did. He hasn't been humbled himself the way that Inanna was by stripping herself bare. She has returned and she now knows what it is to have everything taken from you and be stripped down to your deepest core essence. So we have these parts of the story. We have Inanna who's like, at the beginning it says she turns her ear to the underworld. Many of us can relate to that. We can relate to that feeling. It's almost, I've described this feeling to so many people as it's that gutting feeling. It's like something needs to be tended to within me, and I know something big is coming, but I don't know exactly what that's going to be yet. And some of us might hear our call and then we turn our ear away. And unfortunately, it cannot be turned away. Or fortunately, as I now really believe. And then once we're set to that, once we've decided we need to go to the underworld, and the underworld can mean so many different things to different people. I've had underworld seasons where I'm moving through my chronic illness that I used to really struggle with. I've had underworld seasons where I'm going through a divorce. Underworld seasons where I am not sure what I'm doing with my life. And often we feel those at times when it doesn't feel convenient. Like Inanna, she has all of these riches. She has the 7 me. She has her crown. She has her jewels. She has her robe. She has her scepter, her breastplate, her perfume, all of these things. And when we think about the archetype of the maiden and the archetype of the mother, we really speak to archetypes on this podcast within the cycle and within our life cycle. The maiden, as my teacher Nancy Lucina says, has an ungrounded sense of confidence. It's based on external things. So Inanna, queen of heaven and earth, has this external sense of like, I have all these things and that's what makes me queen and that's why I'm going to be okay in the underworld. Lo and behold, once she decides to descend into the underworld, her shock at when all of those things that she thought is what made her a queen were stripped away from her. And we can think of all different symbolism in the fact that it was Enki, or Ninshubur or whoever who saved her. But she was stripped bare. And once she was stripped bare, she was hung up on a meat hook for days. So many of us think that we need to rush through our underworld experience. Whether you're feeling like you're battling a season of depression, whether you are going through a big life transition and you're unsure what's next. We are so fast to try to seek out clarity. We're so fast to want to get to the next phase. We're so quick to want to feel light again. But what if there was actually nothing wrong with being hung up on a meat hook in the underworld? And what if we went into that situation knowing that it's exactly where we're meant to be? Because what is waiting for us on the other side of that is a deeper connection to ourself. It reminds me so much of women who get to their premenstrual phase of the cycle and they're like, well, I just don't feel like myself. And if all you've been told your entire life is that the people-pleasing, bright, ever-flowing, ever-giving, fertility goddess, ovulatory you is the only version of you that is acceptable, of course you're not going to feel like yourself the week before your period and during your period because you are a different woman. But guess what? It's still you. And actually, often when we get to our luteal phase and we meet that sorceress energy, when we get to the autumn of our cycle and we meet that inner critic, what the inner critic's job is to point out all the ways that we're not in alignment with who we really are. And for someone who has been people-pleasing for so long, I'm here with you all, that is incredibly difficult to witness and to hold. And so I hope that we can all take this with a bit of a lightness. Like going into the dark with a little bit of a light. We are the light, really, when we go into the dark, because all we're going to find there, when we strip away all of the external things, is ourselves. And that can never be bad. And so this myth of Inanna has been something I've held on to in really challenging times in my life. It's something I consider every time I go into my period, knowing that I'm not going to come out the other side the same. It's what I remind myself as I go through challenging life experiences that strip away things that I thought were really part of me. Knowing that I'm going to come out the other side more whole, more complete, a better leader, right? Inanna's a better queen because of what she experiences in the underworld. And this is also really relevant for women moving from the maiden phase of life to the mother phase of life. When you have children, birth strips you bare, pregnancy strips you bare. Pregnancy is like shadow work. It's this, like you're stripping away all of the identities, the physical things, the mental things, the way you were able to spend your time when you were a maiden. And when you move into mother, that's all gone. However, you've become a more full version of yourself. Jordan Peterson says that the ultimate act of maturity is becoming a parent, and Inanna's story really represents that. And so rather than thinking of your life path as a woman as I need to go out and conquer something, what if instead you were able to tune into the frequency of it's not about always going up? What if sometimes I had to go down in order to receive vision? What if my darkest times were actually an opportunity for me to grow the most? And that is the cyclical journey of being a woman. It's remembering that we're actually going to meet the underworld every month. But that's a good thing. It helps us become more full versions of ourselves, more well-rounded, more circular. In the Cyclical Living Circle, my online membership for women, at the end of every call, we sing my teacher Nancy's song, I am woman, I am whole. And one of the lines is, I am a circle, I am whole. Because we move through the whole circle every month. We're not climbing a mountain, really. We're moving in this spiral. And the spiral means we're ultimately going to meet this underworld. And meeting the underworld means that we are conditioned. We are actually designed to be constantly dying and being reborn. And that's why we as women carry wisdom. That's why we say things like the womb has wisdom for you, because as you move through this cycle, you have a deeper access to it. And so my prayer for you is that the next time you move through the menstrual phase of your cycle and the luteal phase, the next time that you are moving through a big life transition, a rite of passage, maybe even as big as having a baby, whether it's your first or seventh, tune into Inanna's story. Remember that even if things are falling apart, it's because things so much better are falling into place. Last year at Samhain, which is this season we're in, it actually so beautifully closes the day that this podcast is live on the new moon. So we've just been through this shadow work, Inanna's descent season. Last year, my drum broke right after I was going through my divorce. My beautiful drum, handmade with a cowhide that I had been supported by a special woman in Costa Rica to make. It broke. It got destroyed actually by someone's dog. And I wept. I wept over that drum all day. I basically held a vigil for that drum because when I made that drum, I said, this drum is my heartbeat. And right at Samhain, that drum ceremoniously broke. And I had to move through that release of an old version of me who needed to externalize my voice with the drum. And after that, so much expanded in my life. Shortly after that, Laura reached out to me and asked if I wanted to host a retreat with her in Peru the next year, and we hosted the first Nourished and Thriving retreat. This year at Samhain, about 3 or 4 weeks before Samhain season, my necklace that I had bought in Colombia when I was traveling broke the day that I moved into my new home. And for me, that symbolized that I had to let go of this nomadic chapter of my life to cultivate the stability that I'm experiencing now, which is so great. But at the time I was devastated my handmade Colombian necklace broke. And then the day before I entered into ceremony for Samhain with Amaya, who I mentioned earlier in this episode, I went to place a tiara on my altar and the tiara snapped in half. Quite literally, the crown breaking. And what I took from that is I don't need an external crown to know my own worth. I can really stand in it. I can really rest in it. Because the beautiful thing about getting comfortable with the underworld is not only that you're no longer afraid to be there, but you kind of tend to spend less time there. You're ready to move on because you're metabolizing your lessons more quickly. It is such a beautiful journey to be a woman. It can often feel overwhelming and a lot and like, wow, I often say being a woman is like a medicine journey every single day. And it is. And yet we still show up. We bleed and we don't die. We birth and we bring life into this world. And so my prayer for all of you is that you can remember this. You can remember the story of Inanna and use it to remember your power and use it to bring you comfort. Because rites of passage matter. And how you tend to yourself during them matters even more. Thank you for being here with me. If you feel like you are in a rite of passage and you need holding, reach out. The Nourished and Thriving retreat might be a great fit for you. And otherwise, these podcast episodes can really bring a sense of remembering that your personal story, just like the myth of Inanna, is a myth too. And everything is falling together just as it should. Thank you so much for being here, women. Until next week. Thank you for tuning into the wisdom of the womb today. It's truly such an honor to bring these stories forward to you, and it would mean so much to me if you'd rate and review this podcast so that it could reach more women. If you're looking for deeper support, you can find the link to join our online community, the Cyclical Living Circle, in the show notes below. There you'll also find the links to book one-on-one virtual sessions, shop the herbal shop, and any group programs that I'm currently offering. Plus, you can follow me on Instagram, and I love to connect with you all there. All right, see you next week.